Hi everyone, this is Lee Whitaker from Kylo Partners. We'll be starting this webinar in a couple of minutes. We've just got a few attendees still joining in to our go-to webinar, and then we'll be kicking off with our best practices for Bullhorn and specifically talking about making placements easier today. Hi everyone, this is Lee Whitaker from Kylo. We've still got a few people joining, but we're going to kick off and start this webinar so that we can finish it on time today. If anyone does join us last minute, we will be sending out a recording of this as well, so you'll be able to listen to it after our call. So this is our Placements Made Easier by Kylo Partners, and this is going to be first of a series of webinars we're running around the world with Bullhorn best practices. As a business, Kylo Partners helps you get more out of Bullhorn. We're an exclusive Bullhorn integration partner with over 400 clients around the world, 30 of those in the ANZ region, and quickly growing. Outside of what we do with systems integration and consulting, we have a series of apps that help you go beyond the basic Bullhorn capabilities, and we're going to go through a few of those apps along with our tips and tricks today. I'm going to introduce you to the speakers today. You're going to have a selection of us coming in from Kylo. Myself as a director of this region based out of Sydney. Sue will be taking you through some tips and tricks. Sue's our delivery manager based out of Melbourne. And we have one of our founders here, Raymond Penny, and Raymond's going to take us through some of the placement validations in Xero, just to give you a bit of a experience to more of us here from Kylo. So with that, we're going to just quickly go through what the agenda is for this webinar today. I'm going to hand over then to Sue to take you through some tips and tricks you may not be aware of around placement tracks, correlated fields, and how to use a distribution list. I'm then going to take you through some contract and e-signatures using a Kylo app. We're going to Raymond will take you through our placement validations and our Xero integration. I'm going to finish off showing you some SMS functionality that we have. If you have any questions during this call, please feel free to use the questions box. We will, near the end, if there's some questions for everyone, take them out to the audience and answer those questions. If they're quite specific and targeted questions, we will come to you offline following on from the call and answer those individually. So with that, we're going to hand over to our presenter, Sue Braithwaite, our delivery manager for Australia. And Sue's going to talk to you about placement tracks, correlated fields, and using a distribution list from a placement.
Thanks, Lee. Good afternoon, everybody. Beautiful sunny day here in Melbourne. Not sure what it's like where you all are. Just a couple of short things that I thought I'd go through with regards to your placements. And something that I guess we start with usually is the fact that Bullhorn has the ability to set up different jobs and placement tracks depending on the type of job that you have. We do quite often see some of our clients that don't utilise this function and end up having a placement screen that has all the information for both permanent and temporary / contract roles on the one screen. So I thought I'd quickly show you where you can find, if you're an administrator of Bullhorn, within the admin function and under field mappings, you can see where your job tracks and your placement tracks are located here. So you'll see that there are 5 placement tracks and 5 job tracks, and these all relate to each other. The master job track sits here without a number on it, and the master placement track sits here. These two tracks are relevant to the lists that you see on your jobs and placements. But when you use the track sufficiently, what will happen is that within a placement screen and your employment type that sits here in your drop down, this is where you can set up what type of jobs or job types that you will have in your master track. But what you want to have in your additional tracks is you can break these down so that you see independent information that would show up differently. If you put permanent into this track here, you would actually be able to then cut out or hide fields that were irrelevant to a permanent placement as you're going through. So things like duration and weeks, you may want to hide because this isn't relevant to a permanent placement. You may want to hide a pay rate because it's irrelevant to a permanent placement. Same with the salary units. So there are a number of things that you can see in this tracks list, which is what we call where you have a number here, that you can hide that are relevant just to the particular job that you're putting into the value list on the permanent placement track under employment type. And once you do that, then you will have a placement track that won't have information that shows a contract. So I just quickly wanted to show you in this particular system, this is just a blank database that I've created a test placement in. And I just wanted to quickly show you that when you don't use the placement tracks, you end up with a placement screen that has all of the information for every job type on it. And obviously, if you're a temp recruiter, you only want to see things that are relevant to your temporary role or contract role. And if you're a permanent recruiter, you only want to see things that are relevant. So here, what you can see, because there's been no tracks used in this database, you see permanent information, and this is on a placement. And then you also see contract information. So that was just something that you should have a think about, is that you can actually break down your tracks within your field maps so that you can hide the informational fields that are irrelevant to that particular job type. So that was just one of the tips from that side of things. The other thing was that at the bottom of the placement, you see here an email notification. You can set up distribution lists so that when you make a placement, it can go off to an approval team. It could even go off to a finance team to inform them that an invoice needs to be raised. You can also notify, potentially if you're in an account manager or resourcer model, you may wish to notify the account manager or the resourcer that you've made the placement. So you can set up internal distribution lists and set these to default so that when you create the placement, you can actually send that off automatically. And that those people or that team will have a notification, and then they'll be able to come in and approve the placement if that's the process that you work with. As you can see, this is currently sitting in submitted, and they would come in here and either approve or reject this placement. And the final tip as well, quite often it's forgotten about, again, within your job and placement tracks, because there's always a correlation, you have what we call a correlated field that you can use. And that means that when you're in your job tracks, you can actually create a field to make it correlate directly to the placement, so you don't have to enter the information. This can be done from an edit type within the field, or you can actually create yourselves a custom correlated field. Sorry, my apologies. I was putting custom here. You've got custom, so correlated custom dates you can have. So anything that has correlated at the front with a custom after it, you can put these in as a label onto your job. And then if you use exactly the same field label on the same placement track, then this information will automatically flow through to your placement track. And quite often people will use one lot of information and realise that they have to re-enter it. So they're just the few tips to give you today, and I will hand you back to Lee and Raymond.
Thank you so very much, Sue, for taking all of our clients who are on the call today through those tips and tricks. We're just going to switch the screen now back to ourselves here. So give us a moment while we just bring back up the presentation. Great, so that should now be showing for all of our clients on the call. So just again to remind you, some of the things that Sue took you through there, all available in the admin area of Bullhorn, whether you're on S-Release or Novo, which is the version we are doing all of our webinar from today, around using those tracks to really carefully make sure you actually can separate out your contract, temp and perm placements and jobs, so your recruiters are seeing the right information, the right mandatory fields and what they need. Setting up those correlated fields, whether they be dates, pickers or text, so that when you have a job that then becomes a placement, all that data automatically transfers over to save them time. And finally, using those internal and distribution lists to inform whether it's a hiring manager or your accounts team, maybe that an invoice needs to be raised or something needs to happen. So thank you again, Sue, for that. So where we're going to head to now is myself and Raymond are going to take over this webinar and talk you through some of our Kylo apps and functionality that we have available in this market. We're going to start with going through creating a contract of a placement in Bullhorn using our Awesome Docs functionality. And then we're actually going to have that go out through DocuSign for electronic signature and have that signed contract come back into Bullhorn. Following on from there, I'm going to hand over to Raymond, who's going to show you some placement validations that we can create. And these can be used in other areas of Bullhorn. We're just doing all of the best practice today around placements. And then we're going to move on finally, after we've gone through placement validations and an integration that we have with Xero, on to showing you some SMS capabilities to end out the webinar today. So I'm going to start by just hopping into one of the placements we have here, which is for an implementation consultant role with Lee Whitaker. And the functionality I'm going to show, which is our Awesome Docs functionality, can be used in different entities in Bullhorn. And today we're going to show it in the placement track on how to create a client contract that you could then send out for signature. So from the action menu here, I'm going to bring up Awesome Docs, which is our Kylo app. And in here, we've got a selection of templates that are available for us to create off this placement. Let that load for a moment. Once it does load, what you'll see is the one we're going to bring up is our client assignment schedule. Now, these templates can be created for different areas, departments in your business. Maybe you've got different brands, so you've got different logos or addresses that are needed, and they can be relevant that come up to the user in that department or private label in Bullhorn. What we've done is we've created this template to launch straight out into Microsoft Word. Obviously, Word is a tool that is very commonly used worldwide, and so everyone already knows how to use it, and it has a lot of functionality that can be actually used in conjunction with our Awesome Docs product. So in the background of our placement that we had created there's a lot of information available to us. We know everything about the job, about the candidate, about the company, about the hiring manager, and obviously about either the recruiter that owns that job or whoever is about to create this contract. So what we've been able to do in the click of those two buttons, from selecting the template to launching Word straight away, is actually bring all of this information out into a design template in Microsoft Word. This template, we've set it up to have a nice cover sheet. It's pulled in today's date, pulled in our nice Kylo front cover with our client's name and the job title. What we've then set on the next page is to have a different header and footer using, again, Microsoft Word's standard functionality, and to start bringing into a template information out of Bullhorn. So we pulled in the company, the address, the contact, the candidate's name. We pulled in the contract details. We pulled in the rates, and we pulled in the job title. Now, what you'll notice some words here are appearing in yellow. As this is Microsoft Word, it has a restricted editing functionality. So if you're using Awesome Docs to create a contract, you can actually prevent people in your business from changing your standard terms. And this would be the same if you're creating your terms of business out of your company in Bullhorn using Awesome Docs. So if there's a specific area of this that you did not want your recruiters to be able to change, when I hit delete, down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you should see I cannot change this because it's restricted editing. And it would need someone in your business who actually has that password to be able to then go in and make changes to this document. Apart from fields being merged in, if there is a specific area of your document that you allow your recruiters to manually change, then you can set that actually up as well. And they can add something, and we've set it to be in the special terms section. So you've got that full capability to add details on the fly, merge in details from your placement across all of the things that it's connected to, and bring it into this templated lock document. Now, if you were using this for something else you need to send out, it doesn't have to obviously be restricted on the editing. And as part of the demo today, and as our best practice, obviously you want to have this contract signed off by your clients, or if this was something for maybe one of your contractors, it might be you need them to sign it and the client and yourself. So obviously there's a full capability to have single, double, triple signatures using our electronic signature tool, which is DocuSign that we're partnered with. So I've made all of these changes while we've been talking. I've just hit save. And then I'm just going to hop back to Bullhorn in the background. You see that Bullhorn's already detected those changes that we've made in Microsoft Word. By hitting save, we're going to take that Word document, automatically attach it as a file in the placement, which I'll show you in a moment. We automatically can name it, so we could call it Client Assignment Schedule -Telstra and today's date. And we can automatically give it a file type as well. So all of that's just been done in the background, and I will show you. But obviously, as we've been talking about that signature panel on there, we now want this to go out to our client to sign and then come back to be signed here by our business. So you'll see here we've got the option to send this straight to DocuSign, to launch it to DocuSign where you can edit it if there's a reason you need to make a specific change. And I'm just going to expand that out to show you that it's going to automatically go to the client contact on this placement and come back to Kylo for signature. So when I hit send here, this is now going to be picked up, turned into a PDF, and go out through DocuSign automatically using their native functionality to our client for signature. In the background while we're talking here, I'm just going to go off and sign that document. So we're going to do that live. And then we're going to actually have it automatically come back to Raymond, who's sitting here with me, who will sign it. And we will show you that when those two signatures have occurred, that that document will actually then be attached automatically back in Bullhorn in the Files tab signed. So I've just carried out my signature in the background here, and that's now going to go off to Raymond. And while I'm just going to do that, I'm going to hop over and start showing you here in the placement when I go into Files that we have that unsigned copy. So you'll see a few minutes ago, 1 minute ago, we made that unsigned copy that we've sent out. And in a moment when Raymond's done his signature, and I won't try and be too impatient, just let technology go around the world, I will then refresh this and that signed contract will appear back in here. So we'll just give that a moment to come through, and you'll actually be able to see that DocuSign come all the way through. And I can see Raymond sitting next to me, signing it with his finger on his phone, which is some great functionality of DocuSign. So if you've got contractors that need to sign these and they're on site, if you've got a candidate that needs to sign a right to represent or other things on the fly, DocuSign obviously is fully mobile responsive and has an app as well. So it's really easy to get these out to people, have them signed, and have them come straight back into Bullhorn. So let's just refresh that again, and hopefully through the internet in a moment, we'll have that come back in. Now, while that's kind of going away and coming back in, what I will also mention for your compliance from the Kylo side is when we do send those contracts out, obviously so your recruiters or your team aren't saying to you, has this gone out, where is it in DocuSign, you'll notice we automatically on the placement actually make an action, save a note, and hyperlink that to that document in DocuSign. So we're connecting up all those pieces to make it really easy to send your contracts, to know where they are, and to have all that connection straight back into the Files tab. And I shall give that, there we go. So you'll now see at 1:19, 3 minutes later, we now have that. And if I just quickly open that up to show you, if you launch that PDF, you'll see that that exact contract that we sent out a moment ago now has my signature on it. Raymond's countersigned it. It's got our special terms saying hello to the webinar, and that's now there saved against that file tab in Bullhorn. So that is our Awesome Docs with electronic signature functionality that can be used in multiple areas of Bullhorn, outside your placements, obviously in your company for terms of business, or against your candidate and or job for a right to represent, are very common places we see that used. But obviously it's really opened up to our customers to the best way to implement that tool. So from here, I'm going to hand over to Raymond, who's going to take you through placement validations, then go through our Xero integration, and then we're going to end up talking up with SMS where I'll come back.
Thank you very much, Lee, and it's a pleasure to be able to be doing a webinar actually from Australia, so thanks to everyone for having me whilst I've been here. So what I was going to do is I was going to go to the placement list And in our placement list, we've got the placements that we've made recently, and we've stored them as a favorite list where we've got submitted contract deals by Raymond. For those of you that either work within the management team or within the finance team, I'm sure you're making great use of the favorites list. But what we're going to do is we've got some contracts that have been submitted, and they're in submitted status, which means the consultant has done their work, and now it's passed through your authorization chain in order for those to be checked. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into number 416, and we're going to have a look at the record, and we're going to check that everything's there in order for it to be invoiced and paid. So when the person goes in, if they look to the record and they go to the edit, and whilst they're in the edit, they're going through to check that everything in the placement has actually been done correctly. So I think everything looks good. I'm going to change it to approved. Oh, hold on. Things red have started to appear on the screen. So what we've created within this placement is a validation to check that the conditions of the client or the company have been met to make sure that you remain compliant with this job. One of those has been that it says we cannot change to approved because there are some errors, and the errors we've got here are the start date must be in the future. Now, that's something that we often see people asking for in contract to make sure that we've not inadvertently used the wrong date. We've also got top right in a very crude red box. We can make it look much better, but for today I thought I'd go with bright red. In order to approve this placement, a contract must be signed and uploaded to the contact. We also have that it's unable to be approved because the candidate's phone number is actually invalid. And in this instance is because we're looking to subsequently use the record to send text messages, which Lee will show soon, such that we can say, have you sent your timesheet in? Good luck on the first day. Good luck on with everything that's going on. Thank you for working for us. So they are validations that can be done and commissioned specifically for you, but today we just thought we'd stick with some easy ones there. So even if you want to change it to approved, it won't allow it because the save button's gone. So what we ask is then people go back and make the changes and then come back and ask to be approved again. So that is that, so I'll leave that one. Then when we have, you'll see at the bottom of the list, we've actually got some placements here that have been approved. So they've got the successful, they've successfully met all the criteria that's been done by yourselves. What we're going to do is this is probably a role that would be filled out by your finance team, where they would say, okay, we'd now like to invoice these roles. And what we have within the list is we've got a send to Xero. Now, I appreciate that Xero is a very popular financial system here. It's actually the one we use ourselves. And so you have your list of favorites of people that have been approved that you'd now like to send to Xero. So you click the send to Xero button, and by sending to Xero, it will bring up our Xero connector. And as part of the Xero connector, it does some validations in the background, and I will wait for it to appear. Here it comes. It asks me to log in and make sure that I'm actually able to connect to Xero. So therefore, it's only available to people that have the correct authorization, and we are going to do it through to our Kylo demo account. And as part of that, you'll see that an error has occurred, which is obviously just what I needed. But because we were starting to do this, it's identified that although approved, we don't have all the information we need in order to send through to accounts. So we've got a missing account code and we've got a missing company ID that therefore would connect through to Xero. So we've built in multiple layers of validation within the placement process such that we want to reduce errors and make sure that when you've made a placement, that the placement fee is sent out thoroughly with all the information to make sure that after all the hard work, you've been able to get paid. So there are two examples of what we've done around placement validations and then the ability to send it to Xero. So I think I'll now hand back to Lee.
Great, thank you for that, Raymond. And obviously Xero we're using here in our example. These could be validations we add, for example, locally if you're using Astute, where some validations need to occur pre that placement being changed to approved for something like Astute, or maybe in Voxy if you're one of our New Zealand customers dialing in today. And certainly in this market, while Xero has been commonly used by our small to medium businesses or Perm, there's some other kind of new businesses starting to grow, such as MYOB Advanced, that we're starting to talk about and look at to have connectors to in this market. So certainly if there's something you're using, or if that's maybe iPayroll in New Zealand, please do talk to us. If there's areas like that that you think could be connected up to Bullhorn, we could then push those placements over to that system. Probably just to note as well, when those are pushed over, there is a great connection between your placement and Xero. You'll have the invoicing ID set between the two systems. And if you were to go into one of your client records, you will actually see that it is connected to Xero as well. And we use this nice blue button here, Connect to Xero, so you can really quickly hyperlink between your company record in Bullhorn and that client's record in Xero or your invoicing system. So I appreciate, thank you for that, Raymond, today. So we close a couple of these tabs down and then talk to you about a final item we wanted to show here on the placement today. And this is around really starting to look at moving on from your placement to start to nurture your candidates. Now, this could be, for example, as Raymond mentioned, something you want to do to remind someone to have send their timesheets in. So your recruiter or your team might have a favorite of all the people who are out at the moment on a contract and hop in every Friday at 3 p.m. and send them all a quick mass message to remind to submit timesheets. But you could also use that exact same favorite list in the Bullhorn placements to create yourself a favorite, for example, of people starting today, people whose start date was a week ago, people whose end date is in a week, or maybe something in your candidate list, candidates whose birthday it is next week. So whilst we're again showing this in the placement, the Kylo SMS functionality is available across the candidates, the jobs, the contacts, your leads, and your placements. So when you're really using those Bullhorn favorite lists, and we highly recommend you do set some up, it's very easy to then get to a list and being able to individually contact someone, which I will show, or contact a whole bulk group of people. So I'm going to just show you our individual one. We've got Lee here, who's a candidate for one of our placements, the one that's been submitted. And you'll basically, as we come in here, be able to see a history of messages that we've already been having with Lee. So I'm just going to bring up the SMS to Lee. Here we go. So you see here straight away, just a little bit like on your iPhone or Android, we've got the whole history of what we've been messaging to Lee, either individually or in bulk through Bullhorn. We're asking about her first day already, how it's going. She's saying it's going really well. And we've been asking her how the new role is going and if she's available next week. So from here straight away, I'm just going to send Lee another message saying, hey, are you still available next week? And in the background, that's going to come over to my phone, and I'm going to quickly reply to that while we're all chatting as well, so you can see us replying in real time. Now, whilst we've got this really great UI to do texting through Bullhorn, and I will show you the bulk UI in a moment, what you'll notice is while you're getting this great history here right in front of you and live on this webinar, Lee's already replied and said she's available next week for a new contract, and she'd like a call tonight at 6. What we do with all of those messages going in and out is we automatically record them in the notes in Bullhorn. And we specifically record them as a note going out and a note coming in. So you can actually see all of that history, and that way you can filter it, you can action it, you can report on it straight through Bullhorn. So you're able to see with this candidate or contact all of the communications you've had with them through the SMS, whether that was prior to them applying to a role, whether it's post them being placed, or even if they got a bulk message from you wishing them happy birthday, for example, or good luck, they're all available in the history and also then again available in that UI to see. Now, off the placement, if I mentioned, if you actually said, you know what, we've got a group of people who are out and it's actually their first day this week, then from your favorite list, you can actually then select all, as I'm showing you here, 6, or you could select individual ones and use the Kylo SMS functionality straight from those lists as well. Now with the bulk SMS, obviously we can't show you that individual message history because it's going out to many people, but the bulk SMS and our individual SMS will also check a few things before it texts. It'll check those candidates are opt-in or leads in Bullhorn. So we're not going to let you send a message to someone that's opted out. And if you have some validations on, as Raymond showed you in the placement, we may also pop up here and saying, sorry, you can't send to Martin. He doesn't have a +61 or +64 number, or he doesn't even have a mobile number at all stored in the system. So we've got that ability here to also send a bulk message, and any bulk message you do send will also be recorded in that candidate, contact, or lead's individual message history. Those bulk messages can go up to 500 at once, which is the Bullhorn list limit. So you can create, really big lists that you are sending out to in mass, or again, go for that much more individual touch. Now, whilst we can't show it today on the call, but as you're probably seeing from what we've been showing you and talking about candidate nurture, off the back of us being able to do those validations and know the SMS is valid and know that placement has really good information, maybe rather than sending an SMS on the candidate's first day, that's something that you could look at. Is that an automation I'd want to put into the system? So there's certainly the ability to actually be able to automate those if we know the placement's valid and their mobile's valid, that maybe actually on the first day of any contractor, temp, or perm person starting with out with you, that actually we automatically send them a text, or maybe the first day it's a call task that we automatically create to your recruiter, but a week from now we do a quick check-in text as well. So when you've got all of those elements coming together, that's certainly the opportunities and what you can create with Kylo are pretty limitless within just that placement section. So I know we've got a lot of people on the call today. I really appreciate you all being on. What I'd like to ask now, if there is any questions, please drop them into the question box, and that way, as we're just finishing off our presentation, if any of them are relevant to the whole audience, I will call them out and answer them. And if not, on here, obviously, if there's some specific questions that clients are asking unique to your own systems, we'll follow up with you after this webinar. As I did mention to those of you that might have come in late, you will get a recording after the webinar as well has been completed, that you can watch this or share it with anyone else in your business.
So we've got one question here, which I think I will pick up and pass to Sue, or sorry, to Lee. The question is, which fields can you merge into Awesome Docs?
Thank you very much. That is a great question from one of our clients on the call. So obviously, as we were in the placement there, we can access anything from the placement, from the client file that it's connected to, from the contact of that client that it's connected to, from the candidate and the details in their file, and obviously from the job as well. On top of that, as I mentioned, we also know the job owner or the recruiter, and we have information on the user actually creating the contract as well. So anything that's available in those fields that are connected to a placement, we're able to pull into a placement Awesome Docs. Now, if you had this Awesome Doc, for example, on your terms of business against a client, we could pull in anything on the client or the client contact file. And the same on the candidate, anything on their record, or if you're in a job, again, we know a lot of information. So we're able to pull all of those in and put them in Word. That could be date fields, that could be text, that could be a drop down and we're bringing in the value. Could also be multiple values if you have, say, a list of skills that we're pulling in. So really it is limitless, and if you have specific questions for your version of Bullhorn, please do ask us.
Excellent. And I can see we've got another question. The question is Awesome Docs available on the Bullhorn mobile app? All the documents that you see would be available on the Bullhorn mobile app, and the action would be there. I think it would become really quite fiddly, but along with the mobile app and how easy it is for documents to be signed, I think that the combination of being able to raise it in Bullhorn, if it was a template, it would get sent, and it could very quickly go out through DocuSign for somebody to sign on their mobile, as I did today, and come back through. As we all know, the Bullhorn mobile app's now been live for about 3 weeks, so we're in beta with a number of clients trying to just work out the use cases and how our variety of their apps can be done. So I think it's a good question and probably a slightly moving target as we go forward.
Great. And also just to mention a question that's come up from our audience as well, it's just about our SMS provider. We are really lucky in the ANZ region to have partnered with Message Media. They're based out of Melbourne but have a large global presence and a presence both in Australia and New Zealand with local providers. That doesn't just mean that the text that goes out to your candidate and contacts comes from a local number, by that +1, for example, or +64. It means you can work with Message Media and actually get yourself a dedicated number. So from Kylo the whole time in Australia, it might come from a Kylo, say Kylo, and come from a specific +1 number. So that partner we do work with, Message Media, has a lot of SMS bundles and a lot of add-ons that you can get, such as message forwarding, dedicated numbers or a dedicated set of numbers for your business. So please, if you are interested in that or the partner we use Message Media for all of our SMS, please do let us know and we can put you in touch.
Excellent. I think we are drawing to a close. Our target was that we would try and keep it to just over 30 minutes and less than 40 minutes. Now, we have some other questions which we will come back to people individually on. Sorry that we've run out of time. On the slide, you'll see that if you have any questions, please just contact Lee, and Lee will be able to come back either with an answer or make sure that you get in touch with someone who does know the answer. And also, one final thing, there are many configuration options and that can be done within Bullhorn. So if correlated fields or job tracks or something that we saw from Sue earlier was something you don't have, speak to your account manager or speak to Bullhorn support. They'll be delighted to help, give you the coaching you need to take that forward. So
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate your time today. We'll follow up with everyone who's been on the call, and please do get in touch with us directly as well. Thank you very much.